Hi, I'm Velshi with MSNBC. As we reflect on 1 year of the COVID-19 pandemic in America, we cannot overlook all the constitutional issues that have emerged. Mask mandates, limitations on travel, assembly and public worship, access to the ballot, access to abortion and guns, and rights of inmates and detainees. It's the topic of this week's A More Perfect Union, and I'm joined, as always, by Jeffrey Rosen, President and CEO of the National Constitution Center. Good morning, Jeff. Break down some of these key issues, including those that have actually come before the Supreme Court, and what rights are being protected and contested during this continuing public health emergency.
Well, as you say, Ali, COVID has raised a host of constitutional issues, from the First Amendment to the Fifth Amendment to the 10th Amendment. And in many of these cases, courts are balancing interests of public safety against individual liberty. So some of the most prominent cases involve religious liberty under the First Amendment. And the Supreme Court, in a bunch of closely divided cases, has lifted quarantine restrictions on the grounds that they infringe the religious liberty of worshipers. Critics say they're treating religion specially. Defenders say that that's appropriate because religion is singled out in the First Amendment. Then we have a series of mask mandates. Right now, Austin is fighting with the state of Texas about whether or not the governor can lift a mask mandate. And that raises questions of federalism, the 10th Amendment, and basically who should decide those cases. Then we have the prisoners' cases, and these are really heartbreaking, Ali. Do you know that 1 out of 5 prisoners got COVID, and more than 1,700 as of December had died? It's a heartbreaking statistic. In many of those cases, courts have ordered the release of pretrial detainees or immigrants on grounds of public health. And in some of those cases, the Supreme Court has lifted those restrictions and required people to stay in jail. And then finally, we have the voting rights cases that you and I have talked about. And in many cases, lower courts have extended ballot access deadlines on the grounds that people need a chance to vote in the wake of COVID. And in some of those cases, too, the Supreme Court has jumped in and say, hey, no, this isn't for courts to decide. We're going to leave those deadlines in place. What's striking about all of these cases is there have been so few written opinions by the Supreme Court. It's really been a series of unsigned orders in most cases where the judges are weighing these very serious considerations without telling us exactly what their reasoning is. So we're going to have to wait for future cases to get more guidance. But broadly, it has been a
But they will be important.
Education.
Yeah, I mean, they will be important because we may face pandemics like this in the future, and having some precedent or something to lean on will be important for us to understand. Professor Rosen, I'm reminded that you are a professor because you make us so much smarter in just a few minutes. Jeff Rosen is the president and the CEO of the National Constitution Center.